Hello, interpersonal students. Welcome to the Face Theory and Politeness Theory lecture. Both of these theories are some of my favorite theories because they're so foundational to interpersonal communication. Almost everything can come down to face theory, I would argue. So what you're going to learn today is going to be really helpful in a lot of your social interactions and also just in this class as a whole. So let's get to it. To understand face theory, I'd like to go back to the days of socializing a child. So here you have two children, and I want you to think of socialization as kind of like the aspect or the process of explaining the rules to a game to someone. So just real quick, let me write this down so everyone can read it. Socialization. Okay? So when you hear this word socialization, what we're talking about is we're talking about how we teach someone to become a member of a group. When you get hired at a job, you go through a thing called orientation and you learn the culture and the norms, and you have to essentially assimilate your personal values with the corporation's values. When we bring a new child into the world, we bring them into a culture and a society, and we have to socialize them, which means we have to tell the child that even though it might be efficient for you to do something a certain way, that is not how we do things, but this is how we do things. So let me give you some examples. When we socialize a child, we might have to tell them, child, even though it might be efficient to pee in public or to pee in your pants, that's not where you go to pee. You're supposed to go to this room called the bathroom, okay? And you're supposed to pee in this little porcelain circle thing with water in it, hence potty training. Or perhaps we have to tell a child, it might be efficient to just grab somebody's toy and then take it for yourself without asking, even if they're not using it. I know, they're not using it. The toy's there. Why can't I just grab it? The child argues. Well, because in our society, you have to ask first. And you can't just say, give me that toy. No, 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 no. You have to say, can I please borrow your toy? Right? And you have to say, please. Please is the magic word. You can't just say, can I borrow your toy? It's got to be, can I borrow your toy, please? Okay? Or the problem I had in second grade, when the teacher would ask us a question in class, nobody would answer, so I would just blurt out the answer. What? Nobody. Why do I need to raise my hand before I say an answer? So I would get in trouble for not raising my hand before I talk. So even though it's really efficient to just blurt out the answer, part of socialization is you have to learn to raise your hand and the teacher to call on you, and then you can talk. Or with the child, with food. When you watch a baby eat, they just pick up the spaghetti and they put it in their mouth. Very efficient, right? They don't have to hold this metal plastic thing or whatever. They just put it in their mouth. That's what they think. But we have to teach a child, no, no, no. When we eat spaghetti, we use a fork, and then you have to twirl it a certain way, and you have to use a spoon, and you have to put it in your mouth a certain way. And then you have to chew with your mouth closed. You can't just chew with your mouth open, even if it gives you more pressure to chew on the meatballs. No, no, no. You got to eat a certain way. So here's the idea. Socialization is then like explaining the rules to a game to someone. There's a lot of ways we can do it, but we have to teach people to be considerate of others, to be considerate of our images, and so forth. So part of the complexity of social life then, if we were to sort of draw this out, is there's sort of a continuum in social life that we're constantly running up against. On one end of the continuum, there's efficiency, okay? And when we're talking about efficiency, we're just saying, look, there's a really efficient way to do something that would just get me the thing really quickly. Just grabbing the pencil that I need or grabbing the crayon out of your box without having to ask. Because look, it's a waste of time. You're not using it. You're going to say yes. It's super efficient. Or just peeing in my pants. Or I'm on the Greenbelt Trail. Why can't I just pee in the bush? What's the big deal? It's really efficient. Why do I have to walk a mile and a half to get to the outhouse or whatever at the Greenbelt? Okay? So efficiency. But there's this other spectrum in social behavior called sociality. And even though it's really efficient to pee in the bushes at the Greenbelt, which I'm sure people do anyways, it's not socially acceptable. It's not considerate of others, or it's gross, or there's some kind of stigma against, just whipping out and starting to pee somewhere. Okay, so it's not sociable. Okay, the problem is if everyone acted efficiently, if everyone was efficient here, the social world would not be a good place to be in. If everyone just peed their pants everywhere because it was efficient, then we would have a serious smell problem, and people would have wet underwear all the time, and it just wouldn't be a good world to live in. So we're kind of glad we have these social rules because that prevents people from being too efficient to where like all social order breaks down. Okay. Now, uh, one of the theorists that we're going to be talking about is going to go into this a little bit more. But for now, what we can say is social life can sort of be compared to a game where we have to accomplish certain tasks, but we have to stay within certain parameters. Okay. So I want to ask my boss for a raise. I can't just say, boss, give me a raise. I'm supposed to, have to say, I have to arrange a meeting and I have to give a reason. And then I have to say, boss, could I please have a raise? All that stuff. Right. So social life is trying to find that balance between these two things. And sometimes we think one thing is really efficient, but it's just not socially acceptable. And here's the other thing. Not only do you have to work within these parameters, but remember, you also have to work with other people, okay? So if you want to get an override into a class, for example, you have to be able to get a professor to give you an override into that class. So you have to figure out what's the most efficient yet sociable way to ask a professor for an override, okay? And I guarantee you, it is not an email with like no subject, and it's like, dear professor, and it's like poorly grammar, and then there's like no capitalization, and it's like, can I get into your class? And they don't specify which class, so then you have to email them again and be like, okay, what class, and who are you? Okay, so it's not that. All right. Got to educate people of the future. Now, with all that in mind, this idea of sociality and efficiency, there's an aspect of social life that we call face. Okay. Now, this is not your physical face. We're not talking about how pretty your face is. We're talking about social face. Now, what is face? Face is the positive social value that one claims for him or herself. Okay. In a context. So I'll even write the whole thing out so you get this. A positive social value that someone claims for him or herself in a social context. Okay? I'm handwriting this stuff just for you. All right? Now, all of us enter social interactions with face goals. There's a certain way that we want to be seen and that we want to be perceived. Perhaps when you're in the classroom, you have face goals like, I want the professor to think that I am reliable, or that I am smart, or that I am, just a good student generally. And then you kind of have definitions of what that means. But then maybe around your friends, you have different face concerns. You don't want to be seen as like the smart, smart, geeky kind of person. Maybe you want to be seen as more as like the funny, cool story kind of person. Maybe the person that's really laid back and doesn't try too hard and all those things. So you can have different face goals for different social groups and contexts. Now, there's 4 features of face that we want to make sure everyone understands. The first, and I'm going to use a different color here so y'all can see it. I don't think that's better. Okay, so we'll use yellow. Use yellow. Okay. First, face is public. Okay. What that means is face is what people observe us versus what you think of yourself. So face is what other people perceive us to be. So you can have a self-concept like without people there, and we tend to call that your ego. Your ego is kind of how you think of yourself. Your face is what other people perceive you as. So face is going to be public. It's something that's observed. Okay. Secondly, face is social. In order for you to claim certain face identities, other people have to pick up on the cues and the things that you're doing to confirm that thing. So if you want to claim that you're smart and you want people to perceive that you're smart, you have to do things in a social setting such that other people can perceive you as being seen as intelligent. Now, here's the thing. Your face image is public and it's social. You could pass off as being smart when in fact you're not smart at all. You could perhaps fake being an expert on something by just like knowing the terminology and stuff, but really you know nothing. But because you know that face is public, you can have this sort of face of being an expert on something to a group of people because it's public and social in nature. But then privately, you can believe that actually I'm not an expert at all. Thirdly, face is claimed. What do we mean by claimed? Face is dynamic in the sense that not only can you affirm face, so let's say you really want to be seen by your friends as being really cool. So what I do is I just say, John, let's just say your name is John, okay? John, you're really cool. Or I introduce you to my friend and say, hey, here is John. He is really cool, okay? So I'm affirming John's face of being cool, right? And maybe John's cool with being cool, okay? Now, if John hates being cool, maybe John wants to actually be lame or something, I don't know. Then, yeah, then that's a problem for John. But if John wants to be cool and be seen as cool, and I say, John, you are cool, I'm affirming face. But face can also be lost. Face, that means that John's face can be contradicted. John could think that he's cool, but then say something that doesn't make him cool, or do something that doesn't make him cool to other people. John loses face. Or John can also give face to others. John can say, not only am I cool, but the people around me are cool. So face is something that's dynamic, that can be gained, lost, sustained, saved, all kinds of things. And then lastly, face is something we want. It's something that's wanted. So in a given social situation, there are certain identity goals that you have. And these are things that you're going to want. So if John wants to be seen cool, and I say, John, you are cool, great. If John doesn't want to be seen as smart, but I say, John, you're like the smartest, geekiest kid ever, but he's like, no, I'm not smart. Okay, so that's going to be threatening to John because that's not a face that he wants, but that's the face that's being put on him. Okay, so face is something that we hold valuable, and it's something that we seek to protect. It's something, so if you don't care what people think, then, if you're kind of like, I don't really care what people think and stuff, well, that's still a face image that you're putting out there, which is the person who's careless, right? Or the person who doesn't care what you think. So then you're going to uphold behaviors to show as if you don't care. But then that performance can also be contested if I say something to you, like you're like, I don't care what other people think. Oh yeah, well, you don't care then that people don't like your hat. What's wrong with my hat? Okay, so there you go. So you have this image of, oh, I don't care what people think, but that's just another performance out there. And then you have this, so then you're trying to defend this image that you don't care, but all I have to say is I don't like your hat, and then you get all riled up. You do care what other people think. Okay, so there's all that. Now here's the idea. There's a sociologist named Erving Goffman, okay, and he's the guy who kind of came up with face theory, like the original article, 1952. And he wrote a book called The Presentation of Self in Everyday Life. And what Goffman argues is that in this book, that much of social life works in the same way of live theater performance. So think of like a stage in a theater actor, and like here's like our Barbara stick figures. All right, kids, we're drawing a stick figure today. Okay, so this is a theater actor. So let's just pretend he's Johnny Depp or something. Okay, he's Johnny Depp now. Okay, and then he has a weird mustache. Okay, there's Johnny Depp. Okay, now, according to Goffman, Goffman was saying, oh, I got to have two people because this is a social interaction, bro. Okay, all right, so there's two people now. Okay, so what Goffman's saying is that much of social interaction works in the way of theater. So just as like a stage theater has actors who play a role for a particular play, we as people work as actors who play a role to put on a particular face. So think of it this way. When you go to work and you put on like your suit or you put on your nice clothes and you have your manager, there's probably a certain set of behavior displays that you give to your manager and that you show to your manager that you probably don't show to your best friend or show to your brother or show to your parents or show to your little brother or whoever. Perhaps when you're around your manager, you're very professional and slick and you're like, yes, manager, I will do that tomorrow, and you're like just really clean and stuff. But then your friend calls you like, yo, what's up, bro? And then like you're just all over the place. Okay. So different face images. So you're an actor who's playing one role in one play or in one context, and then you're an actor playing a different role in a different context. Now you're the same actor. So when Johnny Depp is Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp is an actor, but Johnny Depp has played several roles, right? He's been Jack Sparrow, and then let's write Jack Sparrow here. I know it's awful. Okay, then he was Edward Scissorhand dude. Okay, and then Johnny Depp was like Sweeney Todd. Okay, in each of those movies, he was a completely different person for a different audience for a different script. But Johnny Depp is still Johnny Depp as a person, but he's just kind of different in every context. He's different in Sweeney Todd. He's different in Edward Scissorhands. He's different in um, Pirates of the Caribbean. Same thing for you. You are the same person, but you probably act differently in different contexts. So that's what makes social life kind of like theater. We're all kind of putting on a front, and what we don't want to happen in theater is for the actors to get exposed while they're on stage. So just imagine if like Johnny Depp had like accent in a play and he breaks that accent, or suppose that Johnny Depp is in a play and his cell phone goes off and he's supposed to be Jack Sparrow, right? Total contradiction of the performance, right? It's like, wait, Jack Sparrow doesn't have cell phones, it is awful. Okay, that kind of stuff. So, in a way, you can kind of put it like this: everybody fronts in social interaction, everybody adjusts to an audience, and everybody is sort of trying to everyone has certain face demands and certain face goals. And it's just kind of figuring out what those face goals are and then how you can help that person meet those goals or not help meet those goals. Because the other thing is performances can get contested. And so this is where face theory is going to go in a second. Okay. So all the world is a stage is one of the little quotes that kind of goes with this. Now, this gets complicated because then Goffman moves away from this later, but I don't want to get into too much theory because this will become a 2-hour lecture. But let me say one more thing, though. So you have different audiences that you perform for is one of the ideas of face theory, right? So like all the world is stage and all that stuff. So you have different audiences that you perform for. And what can happen is, and this happened historically. So when Facebook first came out, Facebook was just for college students, and you had to be part of a specific college to even join it. And then it sort of expanded. So it started in the Ivy Leagues and it expanded outwards. So when initially when you joined Facebook, you were only expecting to have a college student audience and mostly your friends and all that. But then you all probably remember, I think it was like 2011 or like 2009. I think it was 2009. Facebook opened up to the general public. And so one of the first things to happen that caused like some people to panic was people in college like me, your mom adds you on Facebook, right? Your mom gets on Facebook and she adds you. Well, all the things that you posted on Facebook weren't intended for your mom. They were intended for your college student friends, right? And all your college friends. So what Goffman calls this idea that we try to keep audiences separate, he calls it audience segregation. And Facebook is a great example of what happens when you lose audience segregation. And certain things that you post can't just be targeted to just your friends, but also your parents or your employers and all these people who maybe are different audiences that you have different face goals for can also see those things. So now Google Plus tried to solve that problem by having circles, right? And then how did Google Plus do? Do you have a Google Plus? I don't. Okay, so but that's one of those interesting things that social media brings into play, this problem of audience segregation. Now, we've discussed what face is, and we have these metaphors now. We have this idea of a game, and then we have this idea of theater. But there's 3 reasons why face has value, and this is why we're spending so much time on learning this. So there are 3 key values to face work, or why face is valued specifically. One has to do with reputation. So this is the social value of Facebook. Oh, excuse Facebook. Sorry, not Facebook. Okay. So face is valuable because face is our reputation. And you probably have heard this before. Reputation is what follows us before and after an interaction. So if I'm mean to people and then people get this impression that they're mean, that like I'm a mean person, then they might start telling other people, oh, Dr. Yu is mean. So then I show up at the party and then like, oh, there's Dr. Yu. He's a mean guy. If he comes up to you, just be on guard. So then everybody's just like on guard when they meet me because they think I'm mean. So reputation is important. And, it's kind of that whole idea of karma. If you have a good reputation, people support you, good things come back to you, all those things. So reputation is really important for your like social survival. And so face is definitely tied to that. And if I have a bad reputation, if I'm somebody who's a trash talker or talks bad about people, maybe you have a gossiper in your workplace, then nobody wants to help you. Nobody wants to be there for you. Nobody's going to be there to support you when you're in a time of need. And that's a problem. And Goffman, in fact, has a little saying. So people who don't mind losing face are shameless. Okay. So shameless means you have no problem losing face. So somebody who's shameless might be, I don't know if you all were around when the show MTV show Jackass came out, where they just do these like really crazy things in public, and it's kind of like shameful. A lot of things were kind of shameful in nature, but they didn't care because it's Johnny Knoxville and Steve-O, and they didn't care. So they were shameless, right? So when you're shameless, you don't care about losing face, okay? About losing your own face. So you'll do crazy things, you'll be mean. I mean, you'll do crazy things, you know, and you don't care. You don't care if you lose face. The other way, though, you could be is heartless. And this is when you don't care about destroying other people's faces. So somebody who's heartless doesn't mind challenging other people's identity goals or their face goals. So if you say you're smart, I'll be like, no, I'm not. Or no, you're not smart. And then like I'd start pointing out all these examples of where you're not smart. So in that case, you would consider me to be heartless because I don't care about other people. I just care about myself, or I don't care if I hurt other people's feelings. That makes me heartless. If I just don't care that what other people think of me or whatever, and if I'm crazy and psycho, you know, okay, I'm just shameless. Okay. So Goffman said people who don't mind losing their face are shameless. People who don't mind hurting others' face are heartless. Okay. So just something to think about there. And then there is another set of value, or there's another reason why face is valuable. And I'll call this instrumental value. Face has instrumental value. And this has to do with interactional. This is on the interactional level. So face is not necessarily the goal of an interaction. So this is something you have to remember. Face is not a goal, it's a condition of interaction. Oh, that's right, good. Face, I messed up. Okay, so face is not a goal, it is a condition for interaction. Okay, so I'm writing this because I really want you to remember this. It is a condition for interaction. So the reason we have smooth interactions is because there's at least some regard for face. If everyone was just like, hey, you, what time is it, fool? Okay, and that's how people talk to each other just normally. We wouldn't probably talk to each other at all. Like, it would just not be fun to talk to anyone, because if people could just say whatever's on their mind, if somebody was just kind of like, hey, dummy face, you know, blah, 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 and everyone was just mean to each other and just brutally honest, it just wouldn't be fun to talk to anyone because there's no regard for face. Okay? So face is what makes it so we can have civil, polite, positive interactions with each other and with strangers as well. Have you ever had a stranger be rude to you and you're totally caught off guard? Why was this person rude to me? They don't even know me. Okay? Because face is the condition by which we interact, and we assume that we will uphold each other's face to at least have a positive, if not a smooth interaction. So face has an instrumental value. It's instrumental in enabling us to want to socially interact and not always feel like we're going to be under threat for interacting. Then there's the last reason why face is valuable, and it's more. Whoa, what the heck? Okay, sorry, I'm left-handed. Okay, so it's more has to do with, and it's more related to emotion. So we'll just call it emotion. It has emotional value. Okay, and this relates to the physical level, or like the physiological. I mean, you can argue either one. Okay, so face has emotional value because face has a strong tie to emotion. Look, have you ever been embarrassed before in front of a lot of people? Did you feel bad? Did you cry? Did you feel ashamed? Did you feel like a loser or whatever? Okay, so losing face hurts. It feels bad. Like you know, has someone ever said something mean to you and you cried because it was like, you know, it just really struck a nerve in you? Okay, so face is tied to emotion. Like the loss of face can be really hurtful and devastating, or the opposite. Has somebody paid you a compliment and it really made your day? Like somebody made a very meaningful, like thoughtful compliment to you, and you were just like on, you know, in heaven for the rest of the day because somebody said that to you. Okay, so that's your face being affirmed and it basically making your day. So face is really important for our emotions. And as human beings, so this is something that really makes us human, okay, is the idea that we all have empathy for each other. So it hurts us to watch people lose face. It hurts us to watch other people hurt, especially when you are the cause of it. That's what empathy is feeling hurt when other people are hurt. And if you don't have empathy, well, then I mean, I'm not a criminal psychologist or whatever, but a criminologist, but I think that's what makes you a sociopath, right? A sociopath is somebody who doesn't feel empathy for others, okay? So you don't want to be that. You want to care about others and you want to care about other people's emotions. Now, there are two kinds of face. So face is like this identity image that we have. And so it's an abstract thing. It's not something we can hold in our hands. So you just have to think face as being sort of your identity goals that you have in interaction. And then there's two aspects to it. There's positive face and there's negative face. Okay, so let's just start with positive and then I'll write down negative and explain. So positive face has to do with approval and inclusion. Okay, so everyone has this desire to have our face approved. So, and this has to do with if you say that you're smart, a positive face affirmation would be, yes, you are smart. Yes, you are hardworking. Yes, you are. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. And this also includes inclusion. So feeling like you're included in a group is also is also a positive face affirmation. So, if you claim to be smart, then being accepted by a group of people who are smart, oh, we're all smart people. We're going to go have a beer at Radio Coffee. You should come. Okay, cool. Inclusion. All right. The best way to think of positive face. So whenever you need a way to remember positive face versus negative face. Actually, let me hold on that. Let me do negative face and I'll give the acronym. Yeah, I'm going to build some suspense up in here. Okay. So negative face is not bad. Okay. So here's the thing. When we're talking about negative, we're not talking about negative in like the bad sense. Like you don't want negative face. No, 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 no. Negative face. This is negative face in the sense of like negative rights. Where it's omission from. Okay, so a negative right. So in like government, you have positive rights. Like you have the right to something is a positive right, and then a negative right is you have the freedom from something. Like you have the freedom from government intrusion. Okay, and you have the right to bear arms. So right to bear arms is a positive right. Freedom from unwarranted searches and seizures is a negative right. Okay, so that's what we mean. They're both good, but they just phrase differently. So a negative face has to do with the protection of autonomy. So negative face has to do with not imposing on people's autonomy. When you ask someone for a favor, for example, let's say you're going to ask a friend to move. So it can be a negative face threat on your friend because asking them to move infringes upon their autonomy for whatever day and time that you are needing them to help you move. So if you need a friend to help you move on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., then that's going to infringe upon their autonomy, right? So negative face has to do with our desire to not feel like we're being treated like a baby or that we're being imposed upon. Imagine if somebody requested something of you and they just said, give me that chair. Okay. So it's sort of a negative threat because, you're not respecting your autonomy. If I said, can you please give me that chair? Okay. Or when you have a chance, can you give me that chair? That's a bit more respectful of your autonomy, right? Because I'm basically saying I don't control you when I say, can you please give me that chair when you have a chance? I'm leaving it up to you. I'm maximizing your autonomy, even though I need to make this request. So here's the way to remember positive and negative face. When you're talking about positive face, think of a cat purring on you. So if we were to draw this, think of like a little cat, like a little cat woman, and there you go. Yeah, there you go. That's a little cat. That's your cat face. Okay, I know it looks like a scary bat or like something from Halloween or something, but that's basically what a cat is. Okay, so positive face, think of your cat face. Every time your cat comes home and purrs against your leg, okay, and your cat just kind of like purrs against it, think of like approval and inclusion. Yes, kitty. Yes, kitty. You're a really nice cat. Yes, you're wonderful. All right. With negative face, I want you to think of your dog. Okay. So all you dog lovers here, you know. So here's your little dog, and then little nose and whiskers. Okay. I know it looks like a mouse, but that's okay. All right. So here he has a little collar thing. Okay. So negative face, think of your dog. You know, like when you give your dog a bone and you try to take it from the dog and your dog growls at you because it's going to town on the bone? That's your negative face. That's somebody's autonomy, and you don't want to infringe upon their autonomy. So, cat face, think of the cat purring against your leg. Dog face, think of a dog and its bone, and you try and take its bone. Now, we're going to break this up into 2 videos. In the next part, we're going to talk about face threatening acts, FTAs, face work, and we'll also be talking about politeness. So, go ahead and watch the next video, take a break, and we'll see you in the next one.